Hey guys, welcome back to one more video on the channel. And what I have in my hand is JEE Advanced question paper of which was recently held, the 2026 JEE Advanced question paper. So I have gone through the entire question paper and I have solved all the questions from the paper 1 of mathematics section. And I have found that the paper is really it is on the easier side compared to the previous years. So, judging by the difficulty levels of the question paper of 2016, which was the most difficult question paper in the history of JEE, so this paper is fairly simple. So, there is nothing extraordinary that was asked in the exam. So, everything was direct concepts, and some questions some questions are even formula based. The only difficulty that you might face in this question paper is the length of the questions. Some questions are really lengthy and you might make a lot of calculation mistakes or something of that sort. But apart from that, this question paper has nothing like wow, nothing extraordinary that is asked. So what we are going to do in this video is to go through the entire question paper, the mathematics section of entire question paper from the paper 1 of JEE Advanced 2026, and rate each question according to the difficulty level of that particular question. Personally, I found the paper very easy. So let's go back and review the question paper. So here we have the question paper. So the first section has the single correct answer questions, which is a very common pattern in JEE Advanced. So this is the first question. So the first question is from the function. So you have a function given. Also, one more thing, I'm not going to give you any solutions, any written solutions for this question paper. We are going to review each question, rate the difficulty level of the question, and verbally discuss what the question is and where people can go wrong. All right. So yeah, now coming back to the first question. So there is a function f and the domain is 0 to infinite and the range is negative infinite to positive infinite. So that is the domain and the function is given root x ln x minus x plus 1. So now 4 statements are given and you have to mark the correct statements. Personally, I found this question very good. Actually, this question needs you to think very critically. All right. So you are asked about the local minima of the function, local maxima of the function, and whether the derivative of the function is increasing or decreasing in the interval 0 to 1. So this is a really tricky question, and this is one of the beautiful questions that is asked in this question paper. So the reason why I said beautiful is because when you start analyzing this question by computing the derivative and the second derivative, it gets really tricky and you understand the beauty of this problem. So if you are a future aspirant or if you are someone who did not get it right in the examination hall, I strongly recommend you to try this problem and see the beauty of it. All right. So I am going to make a short video on this problem, especially explaining how the functions has to be analyzed when you are asked about the local minimum and local maximum and increasing and decreasing natures of the functions. So wait for that video, and I'll be giving this question a 9 by 10. So let's do one thing. So the lowest rating that we'll be giving is 6. So 6 is like very easy, 7 is easy, 8 is moderate, 9 is difficult, and 10 is very difficult. So this is a 9 question. So now the next question. This question is from conic sections. It has got a parabola and a circle and ellipse. They tried to blend different conic sections into a single question and ask you something. All right. So let's read through the question. Let P be the point on the parabola y is equals to x square. This is a pretty standard parabola. All right. Such that the slope of the tangent to the parabola at a point is P. At a point P is 4. So you have a point on the parabola and the slope at a point is given. And just by looking at the question, you will be able to figure out the point P. So the derivative of y is equals to x square is simply 2x, and when you equate 2x to 4, you got the x coordinate as 2 and y coordinate is 4. So the point P is 2, 4. Now the second thing is the point Q. point Q lies in the first quadrant and also on this circle, such that the slope of the tangent to the circle at point Q is -1. So minus 1. So if the slope is given as -1, the tangent will be making 135 degrees with the x-axis. So this is a pretty symmetric point in the first quadrant. So this point is 1, 1. So just by looking at the equation and the slope, we'll be able to write the coordinates of the point. It's pretty straightforward. And R be the point in the first quadrant lying on the ellipse, such that the slope of the tangent to the ellipse at the point R is -1/2. Again, you have the equation of the slope. You differentiate the equation, find the slope, plug in the coordinates, and you will instantly get x and y coordinates. So it does not even take 1 minute for you to compute P, Q and R, all the 3 points. And once you compute those points, so radius of, deriving the radius of the circle from the 3 points is a easy task. I would say this is an NCERT question, and I would rate this question a 6. So if you are not able to solve this question in the examination hall, you should really question your abilities. So very easy question, a 6/10. Which one of the following matrices can be obtained by performing elementary row transformations on a 3/3 identity matrix? So identity matrix, whenever, how do you find out which of these matrices gives you an identity matrix when you perform elementary row operations on the matrices? So it is a very easy thing. So what is one property that you can, that comes to your mind when you look at the identity matrix? It is that the determinant is 1. So even when you perform elementary row operations or elementary column operations, the value of the determinant does not change. Alright, so that is why while computing the values of the determinants, we use row and column operations, because the value of the determinant doesn't change with these transformations. You just have to compute the values of the determinants from all the 4 options and see which of the options gives you a non-zero value. So I think option B gives you that. Now, so again, this is an NCERT question, and I'll give it a score of 6. Now comes the 4th question. This is from inverse trigonometry. So if you check, so every year you can expect one question from this topic, and judging by the trends of the past few years, so they are just asking you these direct values. They are giving you some inverse trigonometric functions, inverse cos, inverse sine, inverse tan, something, and they are asking you to find the value. And this question is also pretty simple. So cos inverse 1/√2 is simply pi/4, and you have 2 here, so therefore that is pi/2. Sine pi/2 is 1, so therefore this value is 10. Alright, and this is also very simple. This is sine 2 theta. This is simply sine 2 theta, where your theta is tan inverse of 2. So you apply the formula for sine 2 theta, so that is 2 sine theta cos theta. And this is cot inverse of cot x. This is a function. If you know the graph of this particular function, you can instantly, just by looking at it, write the value of this. Again, this question should not take you more than 1 minute. Again, this is an NCERT question, and I'll give it a score of 6. So that's all for the first section, which is single correct answer questions. Now moving on, so we have the multiple choice correct answers, and this time the negative marking is not -2, it is -1. It is a very good thing for students, but you should not get into the trap of marking unnecessary options which you don't know. So now suppose that box 1 contains 6 red balls and 9 green balls, box 2 contains 8 red balls and 12 green balls. All the balls of box 1 and box 2 are mixed together, and a ball is chosen at random from them. So you have 15 balls in box 1 and 20 balls in box 2. All the 35 balls are mixed together, and you are picking one random ball. Even be the event that the ball chosen belong to box 1. So what is that probability? That is a pretty straightforward. The probability P of E1 is simply 15/35, and E2, that is simply 20/35, and F1 be the event that ball chosen is red. You just have to choose the red ball. So you just have to add up the number of red balls. So add up the total red balls and then divide it with the total number of balls. You'll get the probability. And similarly, F2 is the total probability that the ball chosen is green. So you have all the probabilities. Writing these probabilities E1, E2, F1, F2, it is a very easy task again. So nothing complicated here, nothing tricky here. So it is a pretty straightforward question, again an NCRT question. So the events E1, F1 are independent. Now to mark these options, you have to have the knowledge of independent and dependent events. Independent events, if two events A and B are independent, then probability of A intersection B should be equals to probability of A multiplied by probability of B. Again, a direct formula. So you just have to check that, compute the probability of E1 intersection F1, compute the probability of E2 intersection F2 for the second option, and then these conditional probabilities. You know the formulas for conditional probabilities. So you just have to do a little bit of computation. So this is an easy question, but you have to compute a lot of things in this question, which demands some time. So let us give this a score of 7. Now next question. P be the plane such that it contains the straight line. So the plane contains this straight line. So at this point, you should understand that the normal, so if you assume the plane as ax plus by plus cz is equals to d, so the drs of the normals will be, directional ratios of the normals will be a, b and c. And this line has the directional ratios 2, 3 and 1. So these directional ratios are perpendicular. So therefore, you will get an equation in a, b and c. And also there is a point 1, 3 and minus 2 which lies on this particular straight line. So that point also lies on this plane. So therefore you will get another equation in terms of a, b, c, d, and is perpendicular to the plane. So it is perpendicular to this plane as well. So from there you will get another condition and you will be able to figure out the equation of the plane. And let plane P1 passes through the point 4, 2, 2 and is parallel to P. Once you have the equation of plane P, so the equation of plane P1 will differ only by the constant term, since these two planes are parallel to each other. And then you just have to plug in this point to find the equation of plane P1. So this is just a straightforward approach. So again, nothing tricky here. So these sort of problems are there everywhere. So you pick any good reference book and you'll be able to find this problem, maybe with different values. Alright, so now they are asking you to find out the equation of P, distance between two planes, so that is, there is a formula, and distance of the plane P from the origin. So again, this is d upon square root a square plus b square plus c square, and acute angle between the plane P and this plane. So from the equation of plane P, you will get the drs of the normal to that plane, and from this equation you will get the drs of normal to this particular plane. So you know how to find out the angle between two planes. It's just the formula based thing. Again, this is a straightforward question and an easy question. All you have to do is you have to sit and patiently solve it. Since it demands some time, we'll give it a score of 7. Now this is a crazy question. This is a really interesting question. This is not at all straightforward, and this requires you to think very critically, and this requires you to assume the function f of x. This requires you to provide a corner case or a contradiction and then arrive at the answer. So this is a really good question, and I'm going to make a video on this particular question. So this is the question that I liked very much in this question paper. So I'm not going to discuss this here because it is very difficult to explain it verbally. So I'll leave it to you guys. You can sit and try this particular question, and we will be giving this question a 9 out of 10. Next question. So this is the next question. There is a matrix M given and you have to find out m to the power 26. So how do you find out m to the power 26? You can find m square, m cube, m power 4, and you can derive a pattern from those matrices, or what you can do is you can find the characteristic equation of this particular two-dimensional matrix, and using Cayley-Hamilton theorem you can find out the value of m to the power 26. So similarly, using the Cayley-Hamilton theorem, you can derive the characteristic equations for m, m square, m cube, m power 4, and you can add all of them up and then you can find out the summation. This question is a classic application of Cayley-Hamilton theorem. So once you have the character equations written, then it is a very easy task to find out m to the power 26 and this particular summation. Maybe you might make some errors while computing this summation, alright, but apart from that there is nothing tricky here. So, and after that, checking these options. The value of A is 378, option B is pretty direct, and option A, so there exists an invertible matrix N. So you assume the matrix N as A, B, C, D, and then try to equate the left hand side, right hand side, and find out the values of A, B, C, D. Then if you get an invertible matrix, this option will be correct. If you do not get, it will be wrong. It's pretty straightforward. And again, there exists unique integers x and y such that these two equations hold. So unique integers, as in they are asking us to verify whether it has a unique solution or not. So therefore the determinant formed by the coefficients has to become non-zero. Only then it will have unique solutions. And similar thing, same with the next thing as well, but your coefficients itself has the parameter t. So therefore your determinant will be in terms of t, and you have to check whether that becomes 0 or not, whether that is non-zero or not. So this will be an application of quadratic equation. So this is a good question. So this is a difficult question judging by the length of the solution. So therefore we'll give it a 9 upon 10. Next question. Again, this is a very interesting question. So this is the numerical value type. These are numerical value type questions, and you'll be awarded 4 marks if you answer them correctly, and 0 in case if you don't. So, and all the questions in this section are pretty good. So equivalence relation. So I can't verbally explain this question, and it is a very interesting and good question which demands you to know about partitions and all of that stuff. So this is a 9 upon 10 question, so we'll give it a score of 9. And the next question, again this is a very good question. So this is a weird function, very weird function is given to you. It involves the modulus function, mod x minus 1, and it involves trigonometric functions, and it also involves the greatest integer function. And the task for you is to draw the graph of this in the interval minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. If you are able to draw the graph of this properly, then you will be able to answer all the questions, whether it is continuous or not at a given point, whether it is differentiable or not, all of that. So the task is to draw the graph of this particular function, and it is a tricky one. So you can go wrong. There are a lot of there is a lot of scope to go wrong anywhere in this particular question. And again, this is a wonderful question, and I'm going to make a video on this. So this is in my opinion, this is a 9 on 10 question. So I'll give it a score of 9. Next, this is a pretty straightforward question from permutations and combinations, and you can get it in most of your reference books and even in the coaching material. This is like a 7 or 8. Let's go with 8. We'll give it a score of 8. And again, this is a standard question from trigonometry only if you are able to identify this pattern. So this involves using the formula cos 3 theta equals to 4 cos cube theta minus 3 cos theta. So this is the application of that particular formula. But this question is difficult in the sense, like, if you have not solved it before, and if you have not solved these kind of patterns, these kind of questions before, this question is extremely difficult to solve in the exam, in my opinion. But if you have seen this sort of questions before, it is a cakewalk. So therefore the difficulty of this question is very subjective. So let's go with an 8 upon 10. And that's all for the numerical value type section. And now moving forward, we have the matching type questions, and the matching type questions are pretty straightforward here. So this is from basic quadratic equations. So the roots of this quadratic equation are omega and omega square, alright, and you just have to plug in those values here and compute. You just have to know the properties of cube roots of unity to solve the first option, and you can pick and solve any source. Even second option is based on the cube roots of unity, and it is very easy to solve. You can very easily eliminate the options. You don't even have to solve all the 4 questions here. You can cleverly eliminate options, and it is a pretty straightforward and easy question. So let us go with the score of 7 for 10. Now the next question comes from trigonometry. Again a straightforward question. So if you check the first option, cos power 4x can be written as cos square x whole square, and cos square x can be written as 1 minus sin square x. So then your whole equation will be in terms of sin x. So it is a 6th degree equation, and you have to just solve it, and solving it is not that difficult. You can actually start writing it on the paper and you can check. It is not at all difficult. These are very easy. So you can pick one more equation, maybe the second equation. Sin square x is directly 1 minus cos square x. So again a very basic question from trigonometry, and this is again a 7 upon 10 question. Alright, so next question. Okay, this has lot of parameters. So the matrix M given to you itself has 5 parameters, and you have to find out the values of all the 5 parameters, and this question does not end there. So a condition is given to you, M transpose is equals to I. From this particular condition you will be able to find the values of alpha, beta, gamma, delta and mu. And once you have that, you have to form these vectors, and once you form those vectors, you have to find out the values of this box product, vector dot product and triple products basically, and this triple product, this particular triple product, and the question based on the parameters that you find out. So this is a very lengthy question, and there are a lot of chances to commit computation mistakes in this particular question. So let us go with an 8 upon 10 for this. So now comes the last question from conic sections. Circle with center and touching the straight line passes through. So center is given to you, and since this straight line touches it, you can find out the radius as well. It is a perpendicular distance from the center to this particular tangent, and once you have those two, you can write the circle equation and find out the point that it passes through. The next question is common tangent to the circle and the parabola. So you can draw both of them with positive slope. So you can write the tangent equation for the parabola, y is equals to mx plus a upon m, and for this it is y equals to mx plus or minus square root of r multiplied by m square plus 1. So from those two equations you can equate the c part of it, y is equals to mx plus c. So c will be a upon m for parabola, and for circle it is plus or minus square root of r multiplied by m square plus 1. You can equate them and you will find out the slope. Once you have the slope, you have the equation, y is equals to ax plus mx plus a upon m. You can substitute the m value there and you will get the slope. And once you have the equation, it is very easy to find out the point through which the straight line passes, and that's how you can mark it up. So overall it is a very easy question paper except for few questions. So I would the entire question paper is between easy to moderate range, and yeah, so if someone the candidates who have prepared well, who is good with basics, and who has revised everything well, will be able to do really well in this particular exam, given that the negative marking is also very less in the multiple correct answer type questions, and also a lot of familiar concepts, lot of standard questions from the book, and there's nothing out of the book here. So there are a lot of direct questions, so it is very easy to score more than 60%, I would say. So I hope you have all done well in the question paper, and if someone who has not given the question paper is watching this video, make sure you attempt this question paper if you are done with your concepts and if you are done with your revision. At least those concepts which you have finished already in your classroom, make sure you try and attempt those questions and see where your preparation stands. And I would say this is more like mains level question paper. So yeah, that's all for this video, and stay tuned, subscribe the channel, and if you like this video, share it with your friends, and give it a thumbs up. And also I'm going to make a lot of short videos on the good questions from this paper, maybe 3 or 4 short videos, 7-8 minute videos. So make sure you watch them, and thank you. I'll meet you in the next video.